They said I was always there, until I wasn't. No fight, no goodbye, just silence. I thought they'd move on. But then everything started falling apart. Without me. You ever feel like you are everybody's backup plan? Not in a dramatic way. No one ever says it out loud. But it is in the pauses, the way people look past you when someone better walks into the room. The way your phone only lights up when plans fall through. That has been my whole life. I used to brush it off. Tell myself I was being too sensitive. That maybe I was just reading into things. But after enough years of being the afterthought, the seat filler, the last-minute invite, they stop feeling like accidents. They start to feel like design. Take my 29th birthday. It landed on a Saturday that year, which should have been a good thing. Everyone is free on weekends, right? That is what I told myself when I texted the group chat. Just a small dinner. Pizza, a couple drinks, nothing crazy. Out of 9 people, 2 responded. One of them said, "If nothing else comes up, I will try." The other asked if it could be moved to Sunday because her boyfriend's cousin had a concert. I spent that night alone. Ate half a cold pizza, drank a beer that had been in my fridge too long, and watched reruns of a show I barely liked. At some point, I laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because it finally hit me. This is what it feels like when people keep you just close enough to use, but never quite close enough to choose. And honestly, that was not even the first time. I can remember in college, sophomore year, when a group project partner forgot to list me in the acknowledgments for a paper I had basically written. "Oh man, I totally thought I included you," he said with a sheepish grin. He did not. Same guy asked me for help again the following semester. Then there was Lauren. I was in love with her. Or I thought I was. We met at work, clicked fast. She had this laugh that came out like surprise and eyes that made you forget the sentence you were saying. We spent months texting daily, sharing playlists, sending each other memes late into the night. But every time I hinted at something more, she would dodge it. Say she was not ready, or that she did not want to ruin the friendship. Then she got a boyfriend. A guy from her gym who posted shirtless selfies and called himself a mindset entrepreneur. I found out through Instagram. They posted matching Halloween costumes. She was an angel. He was a devil. She texted me the next day to ask if I could help her move her couch. And like an idiot, I said yes. Because for people like me, being needed feels close enough to being wanted. But something changed this year. Something small. Something stupid. It started with a photo, and it shattered everything I had been trying to ignore. It was a group photo. That was it. Someone from work had posted it. Rachel, from marketing. It was taken at a rooftop bar downtown, one of those trendy places with string lights and overpriced sliders. I was scrolling through my feed on a Tuesday morning, half asleep, sipping gas station coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard. And then I saw it. Everyone from the office was there. Everyone. Jake, the guy who once borrowed my phone charger for a whole week. Maria, who I had covered for when her kid was sick. Even Kevin, who literally quit 3 months ago. They were all in the photo, smiling, arms slung around each other like they were in a beer commercial. I looked closer, thinking maybe I had just missed the invite. Maybe it was some other department's thing. But no, right there in the caption, Team Night Out. So glad we could finally all hang out. All, except me. My stomach dropped. Not because I missed out on the bar. Honestly, I do not even like those kinds of places, but because no one even thought to mention it. Not one person. I checked my texts, my email, even my old Slack notifications. Nothing. No message. No, hey, you coming tonight? No, sorry you could not make it. Just silence. And the worst part? When I saw it, I did not feel surprised. I felt confirmed. Because deep down I knew. This was not new. This was the same thing that had been happening my whole life, in 100 different ways. I was always close enough to be seen, never close enough to be remembered. The seat filler. The tag-along. The just-in-case. I stared at that photo for a long time. Not out of jealousy. Not really. It was more like grief. Like mourning something I had never truly had. Connection. Real, honest-to-God belonging. I set my phone down, got up, and went to work like nothing was wrong. Smiled at Rachel when I passed her desk. Nodded at Jake when he made one of his lazy jokes. And the whole time, I felt something inside me start to peel away. Not a break. A shift. Like maybe, just maybe, I was finally done pretending this felt okay. But I was not ready to walk away yet. Not then. I still held on, hoping for something to change. The change came. Just not in the way I expected. It was my 30th. A milestone. One of those numbers people pretend not to care about, but secretly do. I had told myself it did not matter. No expectations this year. No party. No big deal. Still, I figured someone might say something. I waited all morning. Checked my phone before work. Nothing. No texts. No missed calls. At lunch, I checked again. A couple of work emails, some junk, a shipping notification for socks I did not remember ordering. Nothing personal. I walked to the break room around 2 in the afternoon. There was a small cake on the counter with blue icing. My chest actually fluttered for a second, until I got closer and saw the name. Happy birthday, Trevor. Trevor, the new intern. Rachel and the others were gathered around, clapping, laughing like it was the best day of the year. He looked embarrassed, but happy. They handed him a card, a balloon, and someone even Venmo'd him lunch money as a gift. I just stood there with my coffee, like some awkward extra in a scene I was not supposed to be in. Trevor saw me, gave me a nod. Hey man. I nodded back. Happy birthday. Thanks, he said, beaming. Nobody else even looked my way. And in that moment, I felt it again. That same weight, that same emptiness. I walked back to my desk, opened my phone, and scrolled through my contacts. I stared at names that used to mean something. College friends, old coworkers, even my cousin Jamie, who used to call me every year just to mess with me by singing the worst version of Happy Birthday imaginable. Nothing. I finally opened Facebook. You know how it reminds people about birthdays? Not a single message. Because I had hidden my birthday a few years ago, told myself I was tired of attention. But now I realized I was tired of begging for scraps. At the end of the day, I walked out of that building slower than usual, like my body was trying to hold on to the hope that maybe someone was still planning something. A surprise. A card. A drink after work. But the sidewalk was empty. The wind picked up, cold enough to sting a little. I walked home in the dark, ordered takeout, ate in silence. And when I finally blew out the single candle I had jammed into a slice of cake from the gas station, I made the quietest wish I had ever made in my life. I wished for proof. Proof that I mattered. That someone, anyone, would choose me. But the candle flickered out, and nothing changed. Or so I thought. Because the next morning, I found something waiting at my door. And it was not a gift. It was not in an envelope. Just folded paper, stuck halfway under my welcome mat like whoever left it did not want to be seen. No name on the outside. No markings. I picked it up, expecting maybe a flyer or some local ad, something for gutter cleaning or coupons for sushi. But it was a note. Handwritten. 5 words, big and messy across the page. Are you finally waking up? That was it. No signature. No hint. Just that one question, staring up at me like it already knew the answer. At first, I thought it was some weird prank. Maybe one of the kids next door being edgy. But the handwriting? It looked familiar. Rushed. Slanted. Almost angry. I brought it inside, tossed it on the counter, and just stood there for a while, heart pounding for no good reason. It was just paper, right? Just words. But it hit something raw. I went about my day, but I kept coming back to that note. Read it again. Then again. Are you finally waking up? It rattled in my chest like a loose screw. Maybe it was not meant to scare me. Maybe it was meant to snap me out of something. And maybe it was working. Because suddenly, I started seeing it all more clearly. Like how Sarah, my so-called best friend since high school, always called when she was between relationships, needing support, needing a listener. But the moment she was in love, I would vanish from her life like smoke. I had not heard from her in almost 7 months. Not a single "how are you?" Or my cousin Jamie, remember him? The guy who used to make birthdays fun? Turns out he had a baby last fall. I found out through a tagged photo on Instagram. He never told me. And then there was work, where I had taken on 3 extra projects in the past year. Helped 2 people get promotions. Trained the guy who now technically outranked me. Nobody said thanks. Nobody even knew I was staying until 8 most nights. Suddenly, that note felt like it came from somewhere inside me. Like it was a version of me I had buried long ago, finally clawing its way back. I looked around my apartment, this quiet, clean little space I had tried to fill with distractions. Books, records, framed photos from years ago when things still felt real. But the silence in that room? It felt loud now, deafening. So I sat down, and I started writing a list. Names, moments, every time I had been passed over, left out, used, or forgotten. Not to wallow, no. Just to see it all laid out, to remind myself that I was not imagining it. And the list got long. Too long. By the time I stopped, my hands were shaking. Because I knew. I had been sleepwalking through this life, nodding politely while people walked right over me. But now I was waking up, and I was not going back to sleep. The decision was not dramatic. It did not come with a shout or some grand confrontation. It started with a text I never sent. Sarah messaged me on a Tuesday night. Her boyfriend had dumped her again. She needed someone to vent to. Her message said, "I really need you right now. Can you call?" For a second, my fingers moved on instinct. I almost typed, "Of course." But I stopped. I stared at the screen, that same old pull in my chest trying to drag me back into my usual role, the fixer, the comforter, the reliable standby. Instead, I set the phone down. I did not call. I did not reply. I let the message sit there, unread and unanswered. The silence felt uncomfortable at first, like I had done something wrong, like I had broken some unspoken rule. But slowly, that discomfort melted into something else. Relief. I did not owe anyone access to me. Not anymore. The next day, I turned down a work request. Just one of those, "Hey, can you take this off my plate?" emails that always found their way to my inbox. I wrote back, "I have too much on my plate already. Sorry." And I sent it before I could second-guess myself. Small things, I know, but they were the start. I began pulling away, little by little. Stopped liking posts from people who never checked in. Muted conversations that only circled back when someone needed something. And most importantly, I stopped chasing invitations that never came. It was not about anger, not revenge. I did not block anyone. I did not post some vague quote about cutting people off. I just let go. I unsubscribed from the role I had been cast in. And that silence, the one I had always feared, it did not kill me. It healed me. I started spending more time by myself, not the lonely kind of time, but the kind that actually felt good. I took slow walks in the evenings, cooked real meals instead of microwaving leftovers, started reading again, not for distraction, but for the quiet. Then, about 2 weeks in, I got a voicemail from Jamie. I had not heard his voice in nearly a year. "Hey man, just realized we haven't caught up in forever. Give me a ring sometime, yeah? I feel like I've been a crappy cousin. Miss you." I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. No hate, no bitterness, just a quiet understanding that some doors do not need to be reopened. But then something strange happened. One by one, people noticed. And that is when the reactions started rolling in. At first, it was subtle. You good?" message from Jake at work. Then Rachel chimed in with, "Missed you at the team lunch last week." I ignored both. I had not been at lunch because I stopped going. No big announcement. Just packed my own and ate outside by myself. Birds and breeze instead of small talk and sideways glances. Then came Sarah. 3 missed calls. A 4th one around midnight. Then a message. "I do not know what I did, but if I upset you, I am sorry. Please talk to me." Funny thing is, she was not sorry for what she did. She was sorry for the silence that followed it. Because that is what gets people's attention. Not yelling, not accusations. Absence. I had always been there, reliable, predictable, the one who showed up. And when I stopped, it was like someone turned off their porch light, and suddenly they could not find their way anymore. Even Jamie tried again. Sent a photo of his newborn. "Thought you might want to see her. She's got your weird ears." I smiled at that one. Briefly. Then I turned my phone off and went to bed. But not everyone stayed calm about it. Maria at work cornered me by the copy machine one morning, said she was worried. "You've been quiet lately," she said. I nodded. "You okay?" I said I was fine. "You're just different." And I said the truth. I got tired. She blinked, like I had spoken in another language. Tired of what? I shrugged. Of being everyone's backup plan. She opened her mouth, maybe to deny it, maybe to defend herself, but I did not wait around to hear. I walked away. That afternoon, Kevin sent me an email. "Saw your name on the promotion shortlist. Congrats if it happens." I was not on any short list. That was the moment it all clicked. They had noticed I was gone, and suddenly, they were scrambling to pull me back in, to fold me into the circle again. Not because they missed me, but because they missed what I gave them. Support. Convenience. A safety net. I was never the priority. I was the utility. And now, I was not available. But the real test came 1 week later, when someone I never expected to hear from again showed up at my door. And this time, it was not a letter. It was Sarah. She was standing in the hallway of my apartment building, clutching a to-go coffee like it was some kind of peace offering. I opened the door halfway, leaned against the frame. She smiled. But it was the nervous kind. The kind people wear when they know they messed up, but still hope for a soft landing. "Hey," she said, voice small. I was in the area. I said nothing. She glanced down at the coffee cup, then back at me. "I brought you something. I remembered you like hazelnut." I let her hand it to me. Took it. Set it on the floor by the door. She shifted her weight. "You disappeared." I nodded. "Yeah. You could have said something." And there it was. That familiar deflection. The kind that turns your silence into the real problem, not the years that led up to it. "You never asked where I went before," I said. That shut her up for a moment. "I didn't mean to take you for granted," she said. "I was just going through stuff." I looked her dead in the eye. So was I. Silence stretched between us. She looked like she wanted to cry, but not for me. For herself. Because she realized something. I was no longer the same version of me she used to keep in her back pocket. "You were always there," she whispered. "I know," I said. That was the problem. She reached out, lightly touched my arm. "We could talk. Just for a little. Go get lunch, catch up like old times." I almost said yes. Almost. But then I thought about all the nights I had waited for her to call. All the plans she canceled. All the versions of next time she never followed through on. And I thought about the note. "Are you finally waking up?" I nodded to myself. I was. "No," I said. Her hand dropped. "You're serious?" she asked. "Yeah." She blinked, like her brain was still trying to rewrite the script. "I do wish you the best," I added. "But I am done being an extra in other people's lives." Her mouth opened, then closed again. I stepped back, gently shut the door. No slam. No drama. Just a quiet end. And behind that door, I felt something I had not felt in years. Peace. But peace is a strange thing. Once you find it, you start to see everything that tried to steal it from you. And that realization? It pushed me toward the one decision I had been avoiding. The final one. I spent that night making a list. Not like the earlier one, where I tallied up all the moments I had been sidelined. No, this was different. This was a list of exits. People, places, routines. Anything that kept me tethered to the version of myself that said, yes, too much and mattered too little. I canceled plans I had half-heartedly agreed to. Left group chats that buzzed only when someone needed a favor. Unfollowed. Unsubscribed. Unlinked. I cleaned out my inbox. Deleted messages that started with, "Hey, quick thing," or "Sorry to ask," but I quit the running club I joined only because someone pressured me into it. Dropped the book club I never enjoyed. Even paused my gym membership because honestly, that place was more social posturing than actual fitness. And then I did something big. I updated my resume. For the first time in years, I started looking for a new job. Not just for better pay or status. For better treatment. It felt crazy at first, risky. But the idea of staying in that office, surrounded by people who only noticed me when I was useful, that felt worse. That same week, Kevin got promoted. You remember Kevin. The guy I trained. The one they said I was on the short list for. They announced it at a meeting I was not invited to. I found out because someone accidentally CC'd me on a congratulatory email. No big speech. No acknowledgement. Just more silence. So I turned in my notice. 2 weeks. No explanation. Just a polite resignation letter and a box of my stuff quietly packed after hours. When I handed it to my boss, he looked stunned. "We didn't see this coming," he said. And I smiled, because of course they didn't. They never saw me to begin with. My last day was uneventful. No cake. No card. Not even a "we'll miss you" lunch. I walked out with a backpack and a light heart. It was raining. The good kind. Steady. Soft. Like the sky had finally exhaled. And as I stepped into it, I felt something unexpected. Freedom. Not flashy. Not loud. Just clean. But life is not a movie. There was no triumphant music. No montage of me thriving instantly. That came later. And so did something else. One more message. The one I never thought I would get. It came late, almost midnight. From a number I did not recognize at first. The kind you glance at and nearly ignore. But something made me tap. 3 words. You were right. No punctuation. No name. I froze, thumb hovering. A second message followed. About all of it. I'm sorry. Still no name. But I knew who it was. Jamie. My cousin. The one who used to sing awful birthday songs and call me family like it meant something. The same one who ghosted me for over a year, shared major life updates through social media, and only reached out when he sensed I had disappeared. I stared at those words for a long time. You were right. Right about what? that I was always the second option, that none of them ever truly showed up unless they needed something, that all I ever wanted was to be chosen for once, not as a favor, not as a fallback, but fully. I thought about replying. For a second, I even drafted something. Then I deleted it. Because closure does not always come from conversation. Sometimes it comes from silence. Sometimes it comes from realizing you do not have to explain your absence to the ones who ignored your presence. So I powered off the phone. Not just locked it, powered it down. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the world kept turning. Somewhere, people were laughing in bars. Somewhere else, someone was crying alone. The world did not pause for me. But inside, I felt still. That night, I slept with no alarms set. No phone by my head. No thoughts of who might need me tomorrow. And for the first time in years, I did not feel like I was missing something. I felt whole. But peace does not end with a feeling. It ends with a choice. And the next morning, I made mine. I woke up just after sunrise. No buzzing notifications. No missed calls. Just soft light bleeding through the blinds and the hum of the city waking up without me. I sat at the edge of my bed and let the silence stretch. Not the hollow kind I used to dread. This was different. This was mine. I made coffee. No rush. No multitasking. Just the slow drip and the warmth filling my hands. I stepped out onto the balcony, the breeze cool against my skin. And that was when it really hit me. I had nothing to prove to anyone. Not to Sarah, who only remembered me when her world fell apart. Not to Jamie, who thought a late apology could rewind years. Not to my coworkers, my family, my so-called friends. For years, I had bent myself into shapes to fit their needs. Smiled when I was hurt. Showed up when I was tired. Said yes when I wanted to scream no. But now I had chosen myself. Not in a bitter way. Not out of spite. Just finally. Later that day, I sat down with a blank sheet of paper. At the top, I wrote one word. Enough. And underneath, I wrote what that meant. Enough pretending I was okay with being sidelined. Enough waiting to be picked. Enough making excuses for people who never showed up. Enough mistaking usefulness for love. Enough shrinking myself to make others more comfortable. That page became my new beginning. Quiet. Honest. Real. I folded it, not to hide it, but to carry it. Not in my pocket. In my mind. And from that moment on, I lived differently. I spoke when I had something to say. I walked away when I was only being tolerated. I chose people who chose me back. Not all at once. Not perfectly, but consistently. Over time, some of them noticed. A few reached out again. But by then, I had already moved on. Because when you finally learn what peace feels like, you stop craving chaos just because it is familiar. There was no grand return. No emotional reunion. No last-minute twist. Just distance. Silence. And me, finally at peace with both.